Good to go.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. This is the Friday Tech Talk at the Tech Academy, and we're joined by Tech Academy graduate Jeffrey Padgett, who's going to be discussing leveraging your bootcamp training and experience from past careers to position yourself as an ideal candidate. And he currently works at Brightway Insurance, building APIs for them. And I'll let him take it away. Thanks so much for being here, Jeffrey.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys. I graduated the boot camp, I think, January of 2019. Um, I didn't write my first line of code, believe it or not, until I was 30. So I just wanted to give you guys, the older people out there, some encouragement. Um, it's funny because whenever I first started, I Googled probably 80 times. Um, am I too old to be a programmer? But I don't think that's the case at all. I know my buddy who's a team lead, he just hired someone that's 46 that started when they were like 35, 36, 37. So it's never too late. I just wanted to get that out of the way. I think my primary goal is just to envision myself if I was a graduate, what would I want to hear, or what would I want to know, or what would I want to tell myself? Not if I was a graduate, if I was a student, what would I want to tell myself to let myself know that everything that I'm doing is for a reason, everything that I'm doing is extremely possible. And maybe I just wanted to give you guys an idea about the job market out there and kind of how you come into a play after you graduate. Um, so I was working pretty much just a dead end job for the most part as a poker dealer for probably like 8 years. Um, I just wanted to do something different. I was doing a lot of photography at the time, dabbling in certain things, and then I saw my cousin, who never had a degree, never went to college or anything, get into programming, and he landed a pretty job. He landed a pretty good job, succeeding, and I also started just building some stuff for fun with him in Udemy. I got into it for about a month, just studying up some Python and Unity, and doing some things in C sharp. I then studied the job market around my area. And then I just decided, hey, I'm going to go to a boot camp. I looked up different boot camps and I saw the Tech Academy and I just joined. I'm someone that is all the way in Florida and Jacksonville. I did every bit of it online. Um, and for everything was great whenever I was going. It was challenging, it was a good pace. Um, but when I graduated, I would say it was very interesting because I passed my second interview that I've ever done. My first interview was actually for an internship, which was funny. I failed an internship, but then I passed an interview for an actual job doing, and they were excited just because I knew Bootstrap. And that's kind of like, why would someone hire someone just because they need Bootstrap? I just wanted to let you guys know you never know what companies are looking for. So always be studying even after you graduate and you're doing interviews and stuff. When it comes to building your portfolio website, we were doing the interview. I showed him my portfolio website right then. I just talked to him how I was doing some Bootstrap, and that was what made him want me. He actually chose me over someone that had more experience than me. And I think it was because I, um, I guess just maybe seemed more motivated, or I seemed to want it more, and I maybe because I just had to prove myself, or I wanted to prove myself. So there are two or three. So there are probably two or three job interviews that I've done once I graduated, just to give you guys some encouragement, where they actually intentionally chose me over someone that had more experience simply because I may have seemed more motivated, or the person that was applying, or the person that was applying kept making a big deal about their experience. There was one person that actually had a master's degree in college that was going for the same job that I was, but because he kept talking about his master's degree, they were scared that he was going to want more money for the position that I was doing, you know? So when you hear Elon Musk and Facebook and all these people out there talking, they're saying they don't care if you have a degree or not. They really truly mean it. And so the boot camp was probably one of the best things that I've done just to kind of kickstart my path to um, becoming a professional developer. I think my main motivation was I just wanted to get out of a dead end job, and I had a child on the way, and I just wanted to make sure that I could be there for my child, and I just obviously just wanted a better career, something that you can continuously learn and continuously get better at, and something that you can never completely master. You know, you can never ever master 1000% programming, in my opinion, because it's changing and there's so much to it, and you can always get better. Um, so once I had a job, once I had a job, I worked there for about 5 months. Um, I was doing I was learning tons of different tutorials. I It was an entry level job for I don't know if I should say the salary. I mean, why not? I'll just say the salary. It was an entry level job for 55. Um, Sorry, I'm just reading the comments. And it was really cool. It was laid back. Even though COVID didn't happen or anything, I could still work from home every other day. My boss was really cool. And it was really weird. It was kind of like no expectations. Uh in a weird way. They had expectations as in I was solving bugs and stuff like that and doing a lot of production support and issues with programming. But then after that, I actually got a call while I was working from a recruiter because of my LinkedIn, and they just called me and was like, "Hey man, I got a job interview for you for in like a week." And I'd never even talked to this guy. He was like, "Hey, I got a job interview for you." So I was just like, "Okay, whatever. I'll just take it just so I can practice." I ended up taking that interview, doing well at it. There was no coding challenge at all, and then I got an offer for 80K. So in less than 6 months of coding, I went from my story might be a little bit above average, but I just want to keep you guys motivated. I don't know if it's above average. I don't know if it's average. I don't know. But I went from writing my first line of code at 30 to making 80K a year, working for a bank that gave me 2 months off of paid paternity leave when my kid was born, that gave me the best benefits I've ever had, tons of time off. Um, and all it takes is just continuously learning. And you'll also notice that if you just keep learning, and keep reading and keep having fun with it and keep studying, that you'll notice yourself getting more confident whenever you do your interviews, and you'll feel better about doing your interviews, and you'll be excited to share some of the things that you've learned or what you're currently learning. Your GitHub is kind of like your resume now, so always make sure to do your things on your GitHub and push anything you do. I don't care if you just make a console application that does something silly, just push it to GitHub. It could be personal projects, or just make a folder called personal references and then label it. These are references that I use for myself, just for personal references in the future. And yeah, once that happened, um once after I worked there for 2 years, which I generally try to work for companies for at least 2 years. The first job, obviously, I couldn't do that because I got an offer for, probably one third of what I was making. So I had to jump ship. But I actually ended up leaving that company for the company I'm working for now after getting another one of my buddies hired on, who graduated this boot camp as well, that I got him through. Um, he actually went through the C# program. He actually got hired on as a um, a PeopleSoft developer, which is okay. Sometimes you just get jobs and you study and you go through the boot camp and your goal is to just get your foot into the door. There'll be That's another thing I just wanted to let you guys know. In some instances, you can get into anything. Not all the time, and are you gonna your first job is gonna be like 1000% a C sharp or a JavaScript. Sometimes you'll get into some other kind of development role, whether it be um, Azure DevOps, continuous delivery type of person, whatever you're strong at, whatever you're studying at, they'll find a need. Um, and there's this kind of thing that I've discovered working for this bank that whenever I was going to the boot camp, I had this impression like when I graduate, I got to be this super coder. Everyone's competing and everyone only wants to hire the best. But that's not really what it's like. Some companies, even though it's good to be the best and you want to develop as good as you can, there's some companies out there that just want to hire someone that's going to be content where they're working, that doesn't mind doing whatever they ask, that are going to be enthusiastic about it, and they're going to pay you well. And they're not saying, "Hey, I want you to be the craziest super coder ever." They're saying, "I just need someone that could give me answers and someone that will learn this technology and do it." So whenever I got hired at the bank, it was good that I knew C sharp, but I ended up working in technologies that I've never even knew before. So I got hired. My very first one of my interview questions was, the very first day I stepped foot in that company, what is the number one skill you want me to have? And he said SSIS. I never heard of SSIS in my life. SSIS is SQL Server. It's basically an ETL type of tool, which stands for extract, transform, and load. And I just was writing that. I was doing SSIS packages, and I learned a lot about ETL. And I just did a Pluralsight course once I graduated and got there. Before I just did a Pluralsight course as I was going into there, just so I knew, kind of could get my feet wet. But once again, I'm just saying that when you guys graduate, there's a good chance you can get hired doing things that you never even studied for. So far, what I've learned is being a programmer is a attitude almost. Being a programmer is someone that says, "Hey, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to study this and I'm just going to continue to learn every day so I can get better." Being a programmer wasn't necessarily what I thought it was, where it was like, I need to know this one specific language and I need to know it the best and I need to know it better than other people, stuff like that. So, um, yeah, I'm just letting you guys know, hopefully, that from my personal experience, it'll give you guys a little bit more insight into what you could be doing. Um, there's some people that hired for just project management. They want project managers. So I think the Tech Academy, whether you take the C Sharp program, whether you take the JavaScript program, whether you take the UI program, whether you take any of those courses, whether you do Python, um, as a developer, you're going to be continuously learning for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, you're just going to be continuously learning, and that's just something you got to get used to. That's just what it is. You wake up every day. I wake up every day, and there's a new challenge, and I learn how to do it, and I solve it, and it feels great. And that's basically, to me, what kind of being a programmer is as of now. And that's kind of what I've learned so far about the industry is, um, you don't have to be a super coder. There's people out there that are looking for programmers that uh, they just want content, happy programmers that they can be around, that are eager to learn and that want to do a good job. There's some companies out there that are self-conscious about their technology because it's 8 years old or 10 years old, you know? they're self-conscious. They're like, hey, I'm using this 8-year-old technology like SSIS when other companies are using Azure, and I'm using on-premises servers instead of cloud technology. Most developers probably don't want to be involved in that. So they kind of step down and say, hey, I want someone that's new, that's fresh into the industry so I can teach them things. That's kind of how companies are looking at things. So I just wanted to give you guys that kind of encouragement. Um, but yeah, and now I'm working for Brightway Insurance, and I left CIT because even though it was amazing, I don't think I will ever work for a company that's going to pay a guy 2 months to have off for their kid to being born. I don't know. But I left CIT simply because I just wanted more experience on my own terms. I left and say, this is getting a little bit easy, or I'm not getting as much work as I wanted to be. I'm not being as challenged as I want to be challenged. And so I literally left, and same thing. I didn't even apply for the job. I got a call from a recruiter saying, "Hey, I have an interview for you in like a week or so." I just took the interview just to do it again, and I ended up getting the job. And now I'm doing full-fledged development on APIs. And when I first started, this API was like huge. It was gigantic. There's probably, I would say, there's probably 20 C# libraries in this thing. And at first I was intimidated. But now after, 2 months later, I've grew and I've learned it. And that's just kind of what being a developer is about. But yeah, so that's my life story. I know this isn't not a biology. I know this isn't a bio documentary about me, obviously, but I just wanted, if I could go, I just know that if I was going through the boot camp and I heard someone tell me these things, I'd be like, wow, this is cool. This is really possible. And I would just start studying a lot more, and um, I would feel a lot more encouraged. And, you know, yeah, I just wanted you guys to kind of get like a real idea of what the job market can actually be like whenever you go to applying and things like that. Um, Another thing is like practicing your interviews is great, and sometimes you're gonna get told no, um, but just don't take no for an answer. Like my buddy the other day, he did a coding interview, and they sent him email back saying, "Hey, we're going to go with someone else." I said, you should send them an email back, say, "Hey, I severely doubt anyone's going to want this job as much as I do. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove. Here's my GitHub, and here's what I'm doing. You said that you wanted this kind of technology. Here's the reference, and I just worked on this, and I just really want to be a part of the company." Just rebuttal, fight for it. And when they see that, there's a good chance they're going to choose you over anyone else. But so yeah, that's kind of my story so far. Um, do any of you guys have any questions at all about anything?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm curious what your current work situation is, like whether it's remote or in person, and whether you have options with that, and how that's affected your ability to learn new things and work on a team, and work with your coworkers.
So, you guys are going to laugh when I tell you this, but never underestimate the development community, okay? 9 times out of 10, if I really need a question or if I want someone to help me whenever I'm really stuck or in the water, I have a buddy on Twitch who streams every day. He's doing C# development for another company, and I will just ask him in the Twitch channel, "Hey, how could I solve this?" I've even went as far as sending him a live share link in Visual Studio, and he would just help me solve the problem and teach me. So a lot of times you'll run in, let's say a lot of times if you get hired at a company and they have senior developers that aren't helping you learn the way that you should be, go off and just find your own mentor and learn from someone else. And I didn't mean to get off topic, but as far as remote goes, the last company I worked at, they're still doing full time remote as of now. The current company I'm working at, they say there's no demands to come into the office, but we're encouraged to come in only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So they could get a little tighter about that. They couldn't, but from my experience so far, it seems like companies are kind of scared to be asking us to come into the office because when you're a developer and after you get your first job, you kind of start to get options. And if you're not happy working in an office, don't do it. If you're not happy working in a certain technology, don't do it. If you're not happy, you get options after, around your first job. And and just like any kind of supply and demand type of situation or anything, um I guess we would say the tables have turned and it's kind of in our area. And for the most part, most developers, we only go in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, just to give you the idea. And I don't even have to do that, but I just do it just to save face. And I would say only 60% of us do it, and half the time, sometimes we don't. We might go in one day a week. As far as the second part of your question, as far as learning, um, I don't want to be in the middle of the office talking to some dude on Twitch and the CTO step out of the office, be like, who the hell is this guy talking to? You know? So sometimes I prefer to work from home just so I'm more comfortable. But that being said, I prefer and I'm trying to work more with my team because I think it's important for me to develop the same kind of relationship with them as I have with my buddies online in Discord or the Twitch community. Um, because hold on, I'll answer that question in 1 second. I just saw it. Um, Simply because I'm very close with my programming buddies in Discord and Twitch and stuff like that. And I kind of developed a relationship, and it's really easy to trust someone that they're not going to judge you by asking them a question in the community, but someone you work with that you don't know who they know, and sometimes you're scared if you ask them a question, um, that you'll get judged, and you just have to get over that. You just have to get over that. So my first job to get over that, I blew the lid off and I just asked questions about everything, and they'll answer it. They will absolutely answer it. And 9 times out of 10, if they're good developers, they want to help you and they want to support you because they learn more than you by teaching you. And if they're not that kind of way, then it's probably not a place you want to work to begin with. And
Mm.
I can't see the chat, but there was one question about the boot camp about being received. I'm trying to see that.
I can read it out for you.
Sure.
How is it received in your actual workplace having a boot camp background? Do people care that you don't have a CS degree?
No, that has never been brought up ever. Whether I have a CS degree or not, um, has never been brought up in a place that's actually worth working at. So it's funny because my very first job, um, was they asked me if I had a degree, and I just said no, I don't. So they decided to just like keep my pay where it was, maybe a little bit. But that place, like I said, um, I don't want to say it was toxic, but it just wasn't the best place to be working at. But once I got experience and I started working at like another companies, it's never been brought up ever. For example, my cousin is making 120K a year, working for a company that's based out of California, and he's a tech lead. He's never had a degree. He barely graduated high school. They don't care. Your GitHub is your new resume now. They just want to see what you built. They don't care where you come from. The best companies to work for literally don't care about a degree at all. In fact, like I said earlier, there was someone that actually got denied for one of the a development role whenever I worked for a bank because he kept talking about his master's degree and they were scared that he was going to want more money. So I hope that answers your question. There's nothing wrong with a CS degree. If you want to go to college and get a CS degree, I think it's probably great. But every developer that I know that's the best has kind of, you know, you're going to be teaching yourself things either way. Of course, Philip. You're going to be teaching yourself things once you graduate to boot camp. Either way, whether you graduate college, you're going to start teaching yourself things. Whenever you graduate the boot camp, you're going to be teaching yourself things. So, in a way, uh, I don't think that it matters. The CS degree doesn't matter. At least from my experience, it's never been a thing ever. Um, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like Cassie has her hand up.
Hi
Hey,
there.
Cassie.
Greetings. I was wondering, you had mentioned your LinkedIn profile, and when it comes to building connections, I know networking is really important. Do you have any advice for how to make that contact? I'm still learning all about it. It just kind of seems odd and unnatural to reach out to someone you've never met and be like, "Hey, I have questions. Care to chat?" It's almost like a social media platform. Does it
So I see what
generally
you're
go
saying.
well?
So on LinkedIn, I did the boot camp 2 years ago. I'm not sure how or what they're teaching now or if it's changed at all. But in my experience, LinkedIn wasn't necessarily that necessary. It was necessary to create a LinkedIn and it was necessary to have an online presence. That way recruiters can find you and you can make connections. But I don't know if the landscape has changed or not. But 2 years ago, it was only necessary to me have a nice profile picture up, for me to have my resume up there, and just for it to exist, just so recruiters can find me. Recruiters are going to be messaging you, and let's say if there is someone that you do want to message on LinkedIn or something like that, or if you do want to make a connection, just simply send them a message and just send them a message with like a link to your GitHub, and you would be overwhelmingly surprised at how receptive people are when it comes to this kind of things. People love knowing that they have a developer in the background or someone in the bank that they can think of whenever a job role comes up for something specific, you know? So, yeah.
I'm the kind of person that, like, someone will say something about their job, and being brand new to software development, working on my specialty, like, there's this guy, Jeffrey Padgett, who works with APIs, and I have questions about what it's like working with APIs. If you got a message from someone that you just saw a face on a screen and had questions like, is that something people do in the tech world, just talk about their jobs, or is it mostly limited to, I'm interested in a job, can you help me out?
Mostly whenever it comes to like LinkedIn and things like that, we usually talk about maybe what kind of certification we might want to go for or what kind of stack you're interested in. But LinkedIn is mostly just important from my experience to have an online presence, a way for you just want to make it the prettiest page possible. It's kind of like part of your resume, I guess. You want to make it very pretty with a nice profile photo. You want to have your resume on there. You guys could look at mine, by the way. It's one that I made from a template that was provided actually by the Tech Academy. Served me very well. And it's important. But let's say if someone messages you, you'll one way to use LinkedIn is if you're applying for a job and you see that, hey, this guy's the tech lead on the company or something like that, you can look them up on LinkedIn and then send them a message on LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw you had this job opportunity open, and here's my GitHub, and I just want to let you know I'm very interested, and because I did some research on the company, and the company seems wonderful. And here you were looking for ASP.NET technology. Here's my GitHub where I actually created, a movie theater using ASP.NET, a movie theater application for a potential client using ASP.NET, and I love what your company stands for, and I would love to be a part of them. That is a way that you can use LinkedIn, just kind of like maybe hunting people down. But as far as asking people questions in general, whenever it comes to APIs or language, your best bet is finding like a development community on Twitch or Discord or something like that, or and just reaching out and being part. People love helping people out, especially if they're eager to learn. Like I said, even me myself, I love helping people because whenever someone asks me a question, if I don't know it, I'm excited to, oh my gosh, I want to figure this out so I know it. If I do know it, I'm glad they asked because now it's refreshed in my mind. It's refreshed, and I gave myself like a mini review, you know? So people like just doing that in general. But
So Twitch or Discord is more of the building your
connections. Twitch, Discord is how I developed my community, or the community that I like to be involved in whenever it comes to talking with people. But when it comes to getting a job, you want to use LinkedIn, and you want to use your LinkedIn to look beautiful, and you want to use it to hunt down potential employers, or use it for not boot camp, but people to reach out to you, like recruiters. You're going to get recruiting calls all the time, So, yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful. I'll check out Twitch and Discord because, yeah, LinkedIn seems more like a stuffy.
There's only like 2 or 3 people that stream on Twitch that are very intense in the C# for the most part, that are really highly active. So there's a good chance if you're constantly involved in there, you're going to run into me, and you're going to run into the same community that can answer your questions about things, whenever it comes to your personal projects and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I see another question in the chat box from Ricardo Lopez. He asked if you had any personal project recommendations that can wow interviewers.
So, personal projects that could wow interviewers. I think the most responsive project that I had was probably like just my portfolio website. And then another thing I did, a lot of the things that the bootcamp is going to give you is really going to help your GitHub presence as well, or your GitHub portfolio. But I think one thing, well, the last job, for example, the last job really liked it whenever you created a README on your applications that show them how to actually run it. Because that's the last thing people want, is to get a project and just not even know how to run it. So creating a README and showing them how to start it up, even if it's like very simple stuff, download it, make sure you have the .NET SDK 5 downloaded, or whatever you might be using, but just simple things like that. But as far as projects to wow people, maybe in your personal time, or a lot of the okay, so to get my first job, a lot of the projects that the bootcamp gave me helped me tremendously. But after I graduated, I created an entire library of nothing but design patterns from a book called Headfirst Design Patterns, and I converted them from Java to C#. That was kind of what helped me, because then I could talk to because then when they say, hey, we like people that know design patterns, I'm like, hey, check out this thing where I converted all these design patterns from Java to C# just for fun, you know? So basically any kind of project, whether it be small or big, that kind of displays that you've at least dabbled in what they're looking for. So if they're saying that they want React, it could be literally just a small tiny React app on GitHub. If you have proof of just showing, hey, I dabbled in React, check this out, that's 10 times better than someone just saying, hey, I did this in React. And if you can talk about it, if you can just talk about what you did, that's generally enough to impress anyone. Period. I would much rather, I mean, put yourself in the interviewer's position. You would 9 times out of 10 take the word over someone that has a small tiny React app on a GitHub saying that they've that they have some experience and they dabbled in it, versus someone that just says, yeah, I have React experience, you know? So just anything, whether it be the smallest or the biggest, I don't think the size really matters. I think just showing that you've done it and that you're involved and that you've had some fun with it, you know? Especially when it comes to your first job, you know? And a lot of times, kind of after you get your first job, there's a lot of really fun projects you can put out there. But once you start working, you're not going to have all the time in the world to create like huge, massive projects, you know? So my take is sometimes it's better just to create a bunch of little applications whenever it comes to learning something. You're much better off creating a bunch of like smaller applications at a time than just doing something huge to try and learn something, you know. At least that's just from my experience, you know, because then you could say you just have the projects on your GitHub, it's easier to explain what you're doing, things like that. um,
It's really good for
Philip,
spec.
now.
Okay, go ahead, Kenzie.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting
Go
a little
ahead.
bit of a delay. I apologize. He asked, what's the most amount of code you've written in one sitting?
That's an excellent question, and I'm glad you say that. It varies depending on the job. Whenever I got my job, my very first job, I was coding like 8 hours a day, but not that much because I was mostly just trying to figure out what people were doing. And the application I was working on was like this huge spaghetti code application. And that's just kind of what your first job is going to be like. You're going to be sometimes fixing things, you know, and resolving bugs and things like that. My second job, I was doing SSIS, which once again I was new at, so I wasn't really writing that much code. For my third job, now I'm back to coding full fledged, almost 8 hours a day. So I would say the most code I've written in a day, I would say maybe 300 lines, and some of it is in like a 300 line session. I didn't write all of it myself. Some of it is pulling code off of Stack Overflow and then modifying it, you know. So it's really hard to judge, hey, I wrote 300 lines of code today, that's how good I am. It doesn't always end up being like that. Sometimes you just pull code off Stack Overflow and you know what it does, you know what it's doing. That's why you're getting paid, because you know you can read this code off Stack Overflow and you know what it's doing, and then you modify it to suit your needs, you know. So um I hope that answers your question, but I would say probably I wish I could screen share and show you the code that I've written and modified, but anyways, that, yeah, I would say around 300 lines, and I'd say half of it is probably maybe 200 lines, and I'd say half of it was probably just, well, I don't want to say discouraging. It could even be less than that. It could maybe be 150 lines, and but a majority of it's from Stack Overflow that I modify or at least look at to figure out how to write something and get ideas. And then you constantly come in this situation where you kind of want to refactor and you want to make it better and you want it to um, run better and you want the design. There becomes this thing where you kind of get obsessed with making your code clean eventually, and you want it to look good and you want it to be readable, you know. So it's not really about how many lines you could write, at least my take. It's about how many times have you refactored, or is it clean? You know, programming is an art. It's like music. you get better, and you get better at making it readable, you know. Um, but yeah, I hope that answered your questions. Hopefully, I didn't elaborate too much.
That's a really good talk, Jeffrey, and really good perspective of what it's like getting in the industry. Can you talk a little bit about what the interviews were like when you were getting hired, and what specifically the tech interview, and what that was like?
So, like the technical interview, like not the personal rapport, but the technical interview. Sure. My first interview was for. I was literally just desperate. This is my very first interview out of the gate. I was very desperate. It was the very first interview I ever had. I just graduated to boot camp, not even a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and it was for an internship that I applied for just to do it. I said, "Look, I just want to get in somewhere. I don't even care. I just want to get in somewhere." I applied for that. I got a technical interview, but it was mostly about JavaScript whenever I was focusing on C sharp, and it was very technical, and I didn't do very well on it. Okay. Then my second job interview was hardly technical at all. It was like, "Hey, do you know what lambda expressions are? Or have you ever used Link?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've used Link before. I've used it." He's like, "So what do you use it for?" I'm just like, "Well, I use it to just, access the data from the database." And, it was that simple. It was that simple. Just, I wanted to know what it was. And then they just asked me a few questions, like nothing crazy technical. Basically, they just wanted to know that I knew what things are. And then after that, he goes, "Well, we're trying to redo the UI a little bit, and we're using Bootstrap." And I was just like, "Oh, I used Bootstrap before." And then I said, "Here's my website," and I was like, www.jeffreypadgett.io. I just sent it to him. I haven't worked on it in like 2 years, so if you guys see it, don't judge me. But anyways, he pulls up the website. He saw that I was just doing it, and I just talked to him a little bit about it and what I did. And he told me that he intentionally chose me over someone that actually had more experience because I seemed more eager and wanted to do it. But honestly, what I really think it was is programming is high in demand, and there's this thing where developers are getting hired on their first job, and then they're going to another company half a year later because the pay raise is so much more. I think they chose me over someone that had more experience because they thought that I would stay with the company longer. I think that's what it really was. He didn't tell me that, but I think that's what it really was. But what he told me was, "I chose you over someone that had more experience because you seemed more eager to learn, and you just seemed like you wanted it more." And a lot of times, I asked the latest interview I just did, I asked, "Why did you choose me over the other interviews?" After I was hired, we were all eating lunch, tacos for the first time. I asked them, "Why did you choose me over the other people that you interviewed?" And they were just like, "Well, you just talked, and you seemed like someone I could talk to, and you're relatable." There was my boss imitated one guy he interviewed, and it was actually really funny. He was like, "So tell me about Link." And the guy was just like, "Yeah, well, you just you just kind of you just use the lambda expression, and just you access data." Like, he just talked kind of like shy and slow, but usually if you have someone that can just talk and isn't like shy, and you're enthusiastic, and you're enthusiastic to learn, that's what people are looking for. You would be surprised, just being able to communicate well, how far that can get you. But as far as technical terms, just to wrap this up really quick, my very first interview was was actually, I would say, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 4 in technicality. Everything that I learned out of the boot camp was able to get me the job. Everything that I learned, I didn't really have to go any kind of extra mile or anything, besides maybe doing a little bit more um, stuff on Bootstrap, just in my own personal time just to do it. But my second interview for the one where I was making like 80K a year was extremely easy. It was extremely easy. It was like me and a guy talking at the park about what we did, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe. I was like, that is amazing. And I think they just sensed the confidence and that I had. And it wasn't that I was super confident. It was just in my mind, I took the interview because I had nothing to lose and I didn't really care. And I was just being honest. They are not going to frown on you or chastise you for not knowing an answer. If I don't know it, I just simply say, I don't know. Is it kind of like this? Or, I just kind of refer or kind of deflect if it's like that. And if it's not, that's okay. And then, okay, after this, I worked for this company for 2 years. And then my next job at Brightway, when I'm working at now, I actually got one of the simplest questions you could ever ask wrong. And he says, what are the 4 pillars of object-oriented programming? I was like, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and I couldn't name the last one, and I was laughing because I was like, dude, I literally just randomly looked this up for some reason 2 weeks ago, and I can't get it. And he just started laughing. He was like, it's okay. Usually people forget abstraction, but usually people forget abstraction, but you got that one or something like that, And then he asked me about dependency injection, which I was very weak on. I didn't know much about dependency injection at all. And I bombed that one, and they didn't care. They didn't care. But after I took that interview, I made sure on my personal terms that I researched dependency injection. Actually, I got a book on it right here that I'm studying dependency injection. But yeah, so that was, and there was a small coding challenge. There was a small coding challenge that I had to do. I've only had one coding challenge in my life, and it was basically to create they lead you to their website that has some JSON, which is JavaScript object notation, and they ask you to just make a pizza service. And they don't even really care if you pass or fail. It felt like they just wanted to see it. And the reason I think that is because my boss was saying, I heard him talking about other people we interviewed, and he was like, yeah, the code was okay. But it was like he didn't even care what the code was like. So don't be scared of coding challenges. Don't be scared of technical interviews. Just do your best, study, be enthusiastic. And honestly, if you get a coding challenge or if you want help practicing interviews, reach out on a C# community on Discord or on Twitch or with your students that you are currently doing it with. You'd be very surprised at how amazing the C# or JavaScript or development community is. They are absolutely mind-blowing, and I really encourage you guys to lean on the development community because it helps them and it's going to help you. Just lean on them, and not only that, but you'll have references of jobs. There's been situations that I didn't know how to fix, and that the C# or like some buddies on Discord that I don't even know helped me fix a coding problem. And everyone at work they don't think I'm like some coding hero, but like it's cool because I can get things done without having to depend on them. You know what I mean? If I get into a bind, so that's just what it's about. That's one of the cool things about being a programmer is the community. And I can't stress it enough to lean on them and depend on them. And as long as you're inquisitive and you want to keep asking questions and you want to learn, that's all the fuel they need to want to help you.
Oh, sorry. Go for it. I was just going to point out a couple of questions in the chat box.
Your first job, sorry, do you want me to read it or I don't care?
If you can see it, go for it.
Yeah. Your first job, was it advertised as a junior or an entry-level role? Did you check every box in the job description advertised? My first job, I actually went on the website and called the lady on HR and said, hey, I just read about the company. I'm just letting you guys know I sent in an application. I'm very enthusiastic. And sometimes it's a great thing to do because HR people are busy. They're just like, oh yeah, this is someone that wants to. This is going to cut my time in half. I'm going to set them with an interview with the CTO. Brownie points on me because I just knocked a I just got a task done. You know what I mean? So sometimes if you just call, and I think that now that I think about it, that's probably what helped get me the job. Is I called them preemptively, saying, "Hey, I put in a job, an application, and I read about the company. It's a company called Caseworthy, and they did like nonprofit applications to help nonprofit. They created applications to help nonprofit companies, and that gave me like a ton of leeway to say I really want to work for this company because they're doing great for the community. You know what I mean? You just have to kind of get inquisitive and think what would a job person, what kind of people do they want to hire, and then ask them. But I didn't fill out any kind of different roles or anything. I was very, if you look at my resume, you'll see that there's nothing on there on LinkedIn. You'll see that there's nothing on there that it's mostly about projects. It's nothing like degree is from here. It's just learning experience or I can't remember what it says, but it's fine. You don't have to check mark anything, and don't worry about entry level or junior level job roles. The job that I have now is actually advertised as a mid level, but I'm actually technically a junior level. I'm still technically a junior, but my salary is 80K. But don't worry about the title. If the rule of thumb, and I think the boot camp taught me this, is if you qualify for 40% of what the advertising thing is saying, just apply. Just apply. Trust me, they want you to apply. They want people to apply. They just put that there to make sure that people really want it. You know what I mean? Just apply. If you qualify, if you know 40% of the stuff that the job role is saying, just apply. There was this one situation where this company of people were looking at job titles, not job titles, but I would say they were looking at the job description to get hired for the company that they worked at, and they were all laughing because none of them qualified for their own position that they were already working. So it just happens. Just apply. Don't worry about entry level. Don't worry about junior level. Don't worry about mid level. Don't even worry about it. Just apply. And even you can sometimes even apply for senior positions. Well, you don't have to fresh out of boot camp, but in my situation, I don't consider myself a senior dev, but I would maybe apply for senior positions in hopes of them being like, hey, yeah, well, you only have about 2 to 3 years experience, so we'll give you this mid-level position, which they need developers so bad that 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you they do it, So don't think too much about the title of the job that you're applying for. Just do it. The job title I currently have is actually a junior position. I'm still technically a junior developer. I've been in the industry for 2 years, but I don't care. I even told my boss, like, I don't care what you guys call me. I care about my salary. And one thing you'll learn once you start coding well and you code good, titles don't really matter. You can call yourself whatever the heck you want, and they'll just agree with you. Of course, anyone could add me on LinkedIn. Anyone could add me anywhere. I've probably referred 8 people through this boot camp, and they're doing well. And there's been times where some people didn't do well, and when they didn't do well, I helped coach them into shifting to like a project management position or something like that. There's so much room in the tech industry. Not everyone has to be coding. There's some people that want to do project management, but they just don't know that they can. There's some people that want to do DevOps and release engineering, but they don't know that that's an option. You know what I mean? So this is just a stepping stone for you to get in there. At least that's how it was for me.
Douglas, did you have a question? I thought I saw a raised hand go up, but it's gone now.
Not really a question, Kinsey. It was more a comment. Jeffrey, I wanted to thank you for the last thing that you said about knowing the 40% for an application, because the job applications I've been looking at have left me feeling like, dudes, you are still definitely a student. You are nowhere near entry-level developer. So, like, at least from one person, I really appreciate you sharing that. That little ego boost that probably lots of people needed to hear.
Yeah, of course. And it's always going to be like that. It's always going to be like that. Companies just, they just make them seem. I would just tell you that every job that I've ever gotten and applied for, I would say I only knew maybe 40 to 50% of what was actually on the thing. And I've only failed one interview in my entire life so far, as a boot camp graduate, and that was for an internship, believe it or not, which is funny. But like I said, my story may be unique. I don't know. But if you do fail an interview, who cares? Keep going. That's what you're going to be doing the rest of your life as a developer. You're going to be encountering certain roadblocks, and your job is to remove them and accomplish things. So that's why I try to say that programming is an attitude, not really what you know. It's an attitude of saying, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to encounter some roadblocks and I'm going to remove them one way or another. That's what you do. That's why we make the money we make. That's why, we get treated the way that we get treated, is because you just solve problems, and that's just what people need, I guess.
Right. Kenzie, I just want to make sure Michael Tabb's question, did he get answered about the communities?
I don't think so, and he's left, but he's a student, so I can email him any answers that you might have, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey talked about Twitch and Discord server. Meetup.com is another great place to find groups in your area or just in general for any kind of tech stack that you're looking for.
Yeah, so whenever I'm working, I literally keep Twitch on, and I'm friends with them, and I just talk to them sometimes as I'm working. And if I have a question, I will literally ask them a question like on the spot, so I don't have to ask certain people. And there's tons of amazing experienced developers, like crazy good developers that you can lean on, that will just show you real world experience things, from the current job that they're working. A guy from Ireland helped me the other day on an API. You just never know the kind of people you'll meet, and I just can't say that enough, to try and reach out to the development community and lean on them, because they're amazing and they want to help people like you, because whenever they do help them, they help themselves as well.
Really good talk, Jeffrey. We do appreciate you coming out today. And does anyone have any last questions?
I don't. Thanks everyone for being here today. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I'm seeing lots of thanks in the chat as well.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was fun. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And I wish all you guys the best, and just keep going, keep coding, and just I promise you'll get there. You will. All you have to do is just not quit. You just have to not give up, and you will succeed 100%.
There you go. Yeah, we do appreciate it, and that's really good perspective. And yeah, we definitely would like to have you back at some point soon.
Sure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, great talk. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Jeffrey. Take care.
No problem. All right. Bye-bye.